Nebraska Preps Postgame with Damon Benning and Jacob Padilla.
It's another week of Nebraska Preps Postgame. I'm with my main man, Jacob Padilla, who was a little of part of the walking wounded. My man, how you feeling?
I've been better. If I sound a little stranger than normal this week, it's because I'm missing part of my left front tooth.
Yeah, that's tough, man. I'm kind of looking at that thing, and even I hurt.
Yeah.
I have porcelain veneers in the front. I got them knocked out in an arena game, at least 1.5 knocked out, and the nerve was exposed. So believe me, I feel for you.
Yeah.
Just inhaling, taking in air made me hurt.
Yeah.
So good on you for being here, man. Try to put a bow on a pretty exciting summer. I thought a lot was happening. We'll do our best to piece together a preseason top 10 in basketball in both Class A, Class B. Class B is tough.
Yeah,
kind of curious to get your thoughts on that. Outside of the first 4, I felt like, oh boy, this may be a discussion because I'm not real sure on what to expect.
Yeah, part of it is the size of the class in general. There just aren't a ton of teams to pick from, and then some of the star talent, the senior classes that we lost from Class B, that's tough to replace.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you talk about Elkhorn and Norris and
Beatrice, Mount Michael.
I mean that. How about some of those senior classes from those 4 schools alone, right? I mean, that is kind of a rare – I don't know, rare. Maybe rare is not the right term. That was a very talented stretch. Even Waverly to some degree. Yeah. And we'll see where we agree or disagree on them. But I think outside of that, shoot, we could stay right here in Class B, right? Because I think in some order it is Scott, Platteview, Ron Colley, and Waverly, right?
Yeah.
I think we may be only outside of Coach Reeder a few that are that high on Waverly, right? Because the roster doesn't wow you, but they are Waverly and they are accustomed to winning.
Yeah, and they bring a lot back. They did lose Andrew Heffelfinger, who's a key piece for them, but they bring their other 4 starters back, assuming guys get back to healthy. They've had some injury issues this summer.
And I think that's what I'm talking about when I say, listen, if you're assuming best case scenario and guys are healthy, because the offseason did not treat Waverly well.
No, they did not. Yeah, Preston Harms, Drew Miller, Hogan Wingrave, all guys that missed time this summer, and those are 3 or 5 starters right there.
Yeah, so I think they'll be interesting. Now, 5 through 10, I think you kind of put in a hat, right?
I think I like Bennington probably as that 15.
I do too.
Chance.
I do too.
Yeah, they went 500 last year, but they bring a lot back, and they've got Austin Holtz is one of the best shooters in Class B. They've got a couple other guys coming back that played key roles. Isaac Connor, I think, has had a good summer, kind of a good glue guy, plays really hard, kind of an undersized big for them, but he'll be a nice piece stepping into this year. Seth Wempin played a key role off the bench for them last year.
Good call on Wempin.
He's a multi-sport athlete.
Yeah, very good call on Wempin.
And Caden Bloom is another starter coming back. So they've got a lot coming back, and I think their GV was pretty solid last year. They've got a few nice pieces on that squad that I think are ready to step up and help at the varsity level.
Yeah, since we're on the Bennington hype train, what they're able to do, and I know you don't follow it as close as maybe I would or some others, but they had a fantastic freshman class coming in too, mainly from a wrestling standpoint. Football, I think, is going to be really good with that young class, and I think they've got a couple of hoopers in there as well. It has become a very popular destination in a very crowded area, right? You have Elkhorn North right there. You have the new OPS High School that will be open in another year and a half, and then you have it all backing right up to Bennington with a lot of folks moving that way.
Yeah, and I mean, that was one of the largest growing schools in the city, and kind of running out of room now. And so it is probably good that we're opening up a few more schools here to let kids spread out a little bit. But yeah, Bennington's definitely, I think, taking advantage of kind of the popularity and the rise in population over there.
When you're talking about the rest of Class B, I think it's a little like Class A, and we'll get to that in a second, where 6 through 10, I think you kind of just shake it up and maybe it's like your preference or style of play, or you maybe think best case scenario?
Yeah, because there's a lot of a lot of the teams that made state last year. Again, we lost so much, but there's a school out like Mount Michael with Kuhn coming back. And how much can he carry?
I put Mount Michael at 8. Yeah. I put them in the top 10 just because I think they're well. Is that where you had them? I think they're well coached,
and they've got a couple of young guys transfers that I think will play varsity for them right away. Harrison Long is playing with them this summer, transfer from Millard West.
You know what's interesting? I just knowing him very well, just having played against him because he and Caleb are the same age. I felt like he maybe would have had an opportunity at Millard West. I watched their summer game, coincidentally, with Millard West.
Played against each other.
He drilled Millard West.
He was raining. I was watching that game, too. He was raining threes.
So I'm thinking, was it personal or is that a sign of things to come? Because he's very capable.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he grows out there with Coach Spooner. And they've, outside of those two, that there's not a whole lot. Daniel Mondi is kind of a backup guard for them last year. Will be a senior this year, but beyond that, you're looking at a lot of guys that haven't played, but also Kuhn 6'8" in Class B, can shoot a little bit,
and came along a little quicker than maybe we thought he would a year ago, having to fill in just a short amount of time. I think we thought injuries were going to be a little more devastating than they actually turned out being for Mount Michael, and I was pretty impressed with how quickly he's come along.
And that is kind of, they made that decision like midway through the season. All right, he's ready for this. We're going to insert him in the starting lineup because he had been coming off the bench to start the year behind all their seniors, playing him alongside Caleb Brink and give him kind of a bigger front line there. And he definitely made some progress down the stretch of the season.
I still want to know what Brink had in the water to get past that injury that we thought was going to be a lot more serious than it was. Think maybe he could become a consultant when he's not playing college hoops?
He's a pretty tough kid. I know he's played through a lot over his high school years, and he's a really good player. So obviously they've got a lot to replace, but I think there's enough raw talent in there, and Spooner's a good coach, obviously, that they'll be able to kind of stay in the mix. I think Blair is kind of the surprise team that made state.
They're 10 for me.
They But they
came
bring
in with
everybody back.
They do, and they didn't have a great regular season, right? They had the great district run, and I think it surprised some people. So I'm trying to balance out. It's almost like if you give the college football analogy, listen, Minnesota brings back 10 starters on defense, but it wasn't a very good defense a year ago. But a year older, you assume they'll be better, right? Yeah. I don't have any problems at all putting Blair in the top 10. I got him at 10. And
they've got 4 starters back. Luke Ladwood, Kip Tuppa is a nice little Class B backcourt there. Again, has some state experience now. Will kind of lead the way for them. They've got some size inside. Wyatt Ogle, multi-sport kid.
I grew up with his dad. Did a lot of work with Ogle. Fantastic athlete. He can play football, baseball. He's a good basketball player. Kind of came up in the Express organization a little bit when he wasn't playing with his hometown team in Blair. A really good athlete who's found a way to change his frame.
Yeah, and then Jacob Zappel is a kid that can really shoot on the wing. So they've got enough pieces there to. They went 11 and 12 last year with the kind of the run down the stretch. So that's kind of one of those teams where it's hard to know. All right, are they going to make a leap this year because of what they bring back, or do we know what they are? And that's what they are. And I was having a hard time finding enough teams that I felt confident were going to make a jump to not have them in that mix.
Comfortable putting Omaha Scott at number 1?
They're number 1 for me.
I put them at number 1 as well.
I think you're probably looking at Plattview's got the best player in Class B in Connor Milliken, but you look at Scott's 1 through 5, and then they're going to have some bench pieces too that are going to help. They got some multi-sport kids that I think will be good rotation players for them. So
you look at a team like Ron Colley, and listen, if Milliken's right there, or is 1A, right, in terms of probably the top 2 players in Class B. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, and you've got Derek Rogers, Alex Rogers' little younger brother,
we know the name, kid
coming back. Austin Schwartz is a senior guard. Quincy Evans, kind of long wing, athletic kid. And then Lucas Brown transferred over from Bennington, who, again, athlete. He's still kind of figuring out, all right, what his game is, but he's 6'4", long, can get up and dunk pretty easily. So he'll be a nice piece for them. And then they got a nice freshman, sophomore class. They've got some young guys that are going to play, I think, off that bench as well. So I like Roncolli's depth and kind of the pieces they have around Orr.
What'd you do with Elkhorn?
Elkhorn, Beatrice, Norris are all kind of in the same mix. I think Elkhorn's got the best player coming back with them in Dane Peterson. But each of those teams made good runs this year in the state tournament, but lost most of their players. Norris, I think, lost more than anybody their whole starting lineup.
It's going to be very hard for them to recover. That's their top 5 scorers. I believe are gone from a season ago. But
Elkhorn, Peterson, really good player. Outside him, they were all seniors. So what do they have around him? With Beatrice, you've got Elliot Juergens coming back, but their three best players outside of him are all gone. And your other starter is a baseball player in Tucker Timmerman, who's committed to Nebraska, and a younger guy. So I just kind of scratched those teams down. I have no idea where to put them, just based on what they lost.
You know who interests me a little bit, and I'm not sure I would put them in the top 10. I flirted with it, but a lot of it is respect. The respect that I have for their head coach. What do you think about Elkhorn North? I
think I've got them in there. Same reasons, like the respect.
They
of the
had
coach.
A better summer than I thought,
and they've got pieces, and they obviously didn't have any seniors last year, and so you kind of looking at rosters through Class B, they've got guys like with Brandon Orgabold and Jack Lusk and guys like that. That's a nice little starting senior combo there. Then you've got Hara Hills, 6'4", baseball player.
Gives him some length.
Yeah. You've got Nathan Cunningham, kind of a good wing guard type. Carson Ripley. A lot of those guys are baseball players as well. So didn't get to see a ton of them this summer. But I think now after having a year that it's hard. Brand new school, brand new team. You're figuring out, all right, how's this going to work? I think they took that experience. They went 8-14 last year, but they had some good wins, I think, in there, and they've got the potential to do better this year. So I'm looking for them to kind of make that step forward. I like a lot of the pieces they have, and again, the coach.
Tougher 7 through 10 in Class B or Class A, because 7 through 10 in Class A, and I'll give you the 4 without giving you the.
Yeah,
go ahead.
One more I want to mention in B is Scottsbluff. They went 13-9 last year, and they added a big transfer in Austin Thine from Mitchell. Thine and
Mitchell got gutted.
Yeah, Thine and Tyler Hari, probably the best shooting combination that you'll find in Class B this year. And I think those two again. They had a solid season last year, didn't make state, but a winning season last year. I think you add Thine to that mix. And that's a really nice duo to build around. And I think Scottsbluff will be really tough to handle out west.
Not sure if we'll agree, but let me go to the back half of Class A. I'll give you 4 names, and I'll tell you how I slotted them. In no particular order. Southwest, Gretna, Grand Island, North Star. How many of those teams are in your top 10?
They're all in my top 15. So when we talked about this a while back. I think we agreed kind of through the top 7. And at that point, I had Southwest in that top 7 at that point.
I have Southwest at 7.
Yeah.
But I went with Grand Island 8. Too high or too much respect for Austin Trout?
Isaac Trout.
I said Austin. Isaac Trout.
Yeah, so Grand Island went 12-11 last year, about 500, with Isaac going 25-9 or whatever he was last year. My question is, how much more can he do? I mean, he had the 50-point game or whatever last year, and then how much are those guys around him ready to step? I think they added a transfer from a smaller class.
He was amazingly efficient last year without a ton of what I would call firepower around him.
Exactly. I mean, playing with all guys that only basically played JV before that. And honestly, he really impressed me with how efficient he was. I expected him to put up big numbers. I didn't think he would shoot the percentages that he did, which is a testament to his talent and his ability. And Grand Island's ability to put him in good spots to be able to use his talent, which was going to be the question for me heading into the year. It's like, all right, how can you get him good looks? And they're able to do it. And now you've got most of those guys coming back. You got Kyton Fife Again, another multi-sport football guy, but
people will recognize the last name Fife.
Riker's little brother. And he was probably their second best player last year. You got Dylan Sextro, good shot blocker, good size, can finish a little bit inside. So they've got a nice little core. They're easily in that kind of like 8 to 15 range. Whereas in A or B, we're struggling to find enough teams to fill out the top 10. I think in A, I go to 15, and I could see any combination of that 7 through 15 realistically kind of playing out.
What did you do with Gretna?
I had Gretna as 8. I think that's kind of the next team for me after that.
I put Gretna as 8, Grand Island as 9, North Star is 10. So North Star is probably out of your top 10?
Yeah.
Who slid in the 10th spot?
So I had, this was coming off of seeing these guys play a lot. I had Omaha South and Papio South as kind of like 9-10, which might have been like Omaha South. Just watch them win the Bryan tournament. I like their transfers. I looked at them as a team that could be one of the most improved in the state.
So I would put South just outside the top 10. Why? Now we'll see what happens over time. I didn't love their decision making when they got going.
Yeah.
Right? They propensity to turn the ball over a little bit, but they're young. So when they grow, they'll grow. But it may take a little bit.
And that's right. And I think, like I said, I think they didn't look quite as good when I saw them later on.
Which was weird, right?
Yeah. Well, and with them, too, they had so many guys. They were bringing
Did you see them with
guys.
or without Lofton?
With and without.
Okay.
So they had so many guys. They weren't really playing a real rotation. They were just playing a bunch of guys. So it's hard to get a great feel for them. But I like what I saw from Tiandre Perkins and JoJo Ford as transfers, adding to Ricky Lofton and some of those other guys there. You got Terrion Griggs as a senior. You got Isaiah Jackson and Jacob Martin going to be juniors. So they've got a lot of guards, and they've got a little bit of size inside as well with Perkins' athleticism. So I don't know if they're in the top 10, but I think you're probably closer than I am. Again, I didn't really update this, but they're definitely in that mix. I think so. I'm looking at South, at Gretna, Lincoln Southwest, and even Omaha West side.
I had Southwest I had Southwest at 7.
Yeah, those are and even Omaha West side. Those 4 I think have a chance to be some of the most improved teams, just based on what they brought back and what they did previously. Obviously, West Side was really good last year, but if I got them number 2 right now,
yes,
easily number 1. So 17-7 to.
So I think I settled in on my 3 through 6. I went Bellevue West 1, West Side 2.
Yep.
I went Millard North 3.
Yep.
Prep 4.
Yep.
Central 5. Then Pius 6.
I went Pius 6 and Central at 7. I'm still.
Who's holding the 5 spot? Southwest.
Pius at 5. Sorry, okay. Southwest at 6.
So all we really did was flip flop.
Yeah.
Pius and Central.
Yeah.
Central is interesting because their ceiling is closer to the floor than some, but their floor isn't very low, in my opinion. I think their floor is pretty high.
Yeah, so the question about them is obviously they've lost some really talented senior guards last year, and you've got Jay Dawson, who's arguably the best guard in the state, coming back, so that'll be huge. You got P.J. Davis, who's a very talented player as well, and then after that, it's kind of question marks. You've got those 2. You know what you're going to get out of those guys. Talk to me. DeAndre Brody, that's it.
I like DeAndre. Yeah. Smaller guard, but very savvy.
Is he
handles it well?
Is he ready to step up and be a consistent starting point guard? They're basically their whole front court of transfers. You've got Zion Banghennen coming over from Omaha South. You've got Raheem Briggs, who moved out and then came back, a good athlete. You've got Kia Poljor as a transfer over there. So they've got a little bit of size, but outside of those 2, there's not a lot proven there. I like their potential. I just wasn't quite sure if they're ready to be that top 5 team, if those guys are going to be consistent enough. And then kind of you run out of guys that have proven themselves in a hurry. You look at that bench. It doesn't look like they've got a ton of depth this year. So that means you're relying even more on
Is there
those
anybody
guys.
that's mastered the art of playing 7 or less more or better than Coach Behrens?
That's true. He definitely knows how to do it.
I think he could look at you straight face and tell you that depth is overrated when you keep guys out of foul trouble.
Yeah. So I just kind of wrap it up here, the conversation. I think some teams, Elkhorn South went about 500 last year. They've got enough pieces to be good. Now, can they kind of step up? You've got a lot of guys that I think they've got a lot of depth. Now, can these guys step up and be consistent? Lincoln East, I think, will kind of be in that middle tier mix again. They've got a lot of really good guards and backcourts.
You saw one up in close all summer.
Carter Templemeyer, put him on your breakout list this year, I think. We already mentioned Grand Island in there. Lincoln North Star, you mentioned. I like that 5, that starting 5. Do they have any depth? And are those guys, most of them are sophomores with a junior in there, are those guys ready to step up and be main guys? And then Lincoln Northeast, I think, is the other one that I would throw in that kind of top 15 mix. Got a lot coming back. You've got Porter Basil ready to kind of step up. You've got
needs a little help.
Yeah, Xander Beard had a really good summer, and then we've got some kind of solid pieces around them.
How's that for rapid fire in a speed round, Class A, Class B? Back next week. This is hard to believe, but we'll be previewing football as camp opens up on the 9th. We'll transition because that's what we do. We'll be back next week. That's Jacob Padilla, one of the best in the business. I'm ODB. This is Nebraska Preps Postgame. Don't miss it next week.
A Hurrdat Media Production.